Welcome to our deep dive. And let me just say, spirals, right? I mean, there's something about them, don't you think?
Absolutely. They're everywhere you look once you start noticing them, and they really make you wonder what's going on beneath the surface.
It's like they're hinting at some deeper order to the universe, or even within ourselves.
Exactly. And that's what makes this lecture 240, The Spiral Scales Master Pythagoras, so fascinating. Even the title makes you think, right?
Spiral scales. I'm hooked already. What are those exactly?
Well, think of them like levels of consciousness, but instead of a straight line, it's a spiral. And get this, it spirals both up and down. It's not just about gaining knowledge, but also about letting go, shedding those old patterns and beliefs that hold us back.
So it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
In a way, yes. It's like this constant dance between expanding outwards and refining inwards. It's not about linear progress, but this constant spiraling towards deeper understanding.
Okay, so you're saying it's not just about learning new things, but also about reinterpreting past experiences as we grow.
Exactly. As we move along this spiral scale, our perspective shifts. So something that maybe we interpreted one way when we were younger takes on a whole new meaning as we mature. It's like you were saying about spirals revealing deeper layers. It's happening within us too.
Wow, that really resonates. Okay, so we've got these spiral scales representing our personal journeys of consciousness, but then this lecture also dives into this idea of music of the spheres. I'll be honest, that always sounded a bit out there to me. What's the deal with that?
Right? It's this ancient concept, but when you really break it down, it's about vibration. The ancients believed that everything in the universe, planets, stars, even us, is vibrating at a specific frequency. And when those vibrations harmonize, well, they create this cosmic symphony.
So you're saying the universe is basically one giant orchestra.
Exactly. And we're all part of it, whether we realize it or not.
Okay, but how do spirals play into all of this? We've got the universe, we've got music. Where do the spirals come in?
Think of it this way. A spiral can amplify sound, right? Like with a seashell.
Mhm.
Well, imagine that on a cosmic scale. Those spirals act as conduits for these universal vibrations.
So by tapping into those spirals, we're essentially tuning into this cosmic symphony.
Exactly. It's about attuning ourselves to a frequency beyond our normal perception. It's like unlocking a hidden radio station that broadcasts the music of existence. And you know where this lecture really blew my mind? It connects those vibrations to the idea of time. Like, what even is time, you know?
Oh, yeah. I've always been fascinated by that. It's like we all think we know what time is, but then you start really thinking about it and it just dissolves into this big mystery.
Totally. And this lecture kind of throws our usual linear way of thinking about time out the window. It even brings in Einstein and relativity.
Okay, now you're speaking my language. I love that stuff. But how do spirals fit into all of this?
Well, think about a spiral. It's not bound by any beginning or end. It just keeps expanding and contracting. This lecture suggests that maybe time is kind of like that too. Like not a straight line, but this infinite spiral where past, present, and future are all connected, constantly influencing each other.
Whoa, so you're saying the past isn't really gone and the future isn't set in stone. It's all happening at once, just like different points on a spiral.
Exactly. Think about it. You can be walking up a spiral staircase and look down and see where you've been, right? But you can also see where you're going. It's
All right.
all right there.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get it. So it's like every moment in time is a point on the spiral, and they're all connected, all influencing each other. That's pretty wild. But let's get practical for a second. If we want to tap into this spiral energy, do we need to become mathematicians or something? Should we be studying Fibonacci sequences?
That's the cool part. The lecture says it's not about the math. Well, it can be, but the real key is to embody the spiral. It's less about thinking about it and more about feeling it.
So how do we do that? How do we actually connect with that spiral energy within ourselves?
It's about practices that shift us out of our heads and into our bodies. This lecture talks a lot about meditation, being in nature, even just like really paying attention to our breath.
So it's about getting out of our linear analytical minds and tapping into something more intuitive, more in tune with those natural rhythms.
Yes. And the lecture describes it beautifully. They talk about exhaling light. Like as we connect with that spiral energy within, we become conduits for something bigger than ourselves. We start radiating that energy outwards.
So it's not just about our own personal journeys, but about recognizing our interconnectedness with, like, everything.
Exactly. And it gets even more mind-blowing when you remember the very building blocks of life itself.
You mean DNA?
Yeah. What shape is that?
It's a double helix, which is, wait a minute, it's two spirals intertwined. Are you saying our DNA itself holds the key to all of this?
Maybe? If the blueprint for life is based on a spiral, isn't it possible that we're hardwired to connect with these deeper levels of consciousness, these different ways of experiencing time?
Okay, I am definitely going to need a minute to process all of this. We've gone from galaxies to DNA in like an hour. This is a lot.
It is a lot. But it's not about having all the answers. This lecture, it's like it's given us a map, but the territory is still uncharted. It's up to us to explore.
So where do we even begin?
Maybe that's the question, right? Where do we begin?
You know, it's funny. Before this deep dive, I never really thought about spirals that much, but now that we're talking about it, they're everywhere, aren't they?
Or, right, they're kind of inescapable when you really start paying attention.
It's like this secret code embedded in, well, everything, and we're just starting to crack it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's why this lecture is so powerful. It's not just about spirals as shapes, but as symbols, as representations of something much deeper.
It's like you were saying before about those spiral staircases. There's something about them that draws you in, makes you want to see what's around the next bend.
And maybe that's what life is, right? Just this continuous journey of discovery with new perspectives revealing themselves as we go. We're always circling back, revisiting old ideas and experiences, but with a fresh set of eyes.
It's like that saying, what goes around comes around. But maybe it's not about things repeating exactly, but about us spiraling upwards, encountering those familiar themes on a whole new level.
I like that. And maybe the key, like this lecture suggests, is to stop resisting the spiral, to just surrender to the flow, embrace the journey with all its twists and turns.
So it's less about forcing things to go in a straight line and more about trusting that those curves are leading us exactly where we need to go.
Exactly. Remember that phrase, exhaling light? Maybe that's what happens when we let go of that need for control, when we trust the spiral. We start radiating something new into the world.
So what you're saying is this isn't just a deep dive into spirals, it's a deep dive into ourselves, into our place in the grand scheme of things.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that we're not separate from these patterns, but part of them. We embody those spirals, whether we realize it or not.
We are the spirals. That's a powerful thought to end on. So to everyone listening, keep your eyes open. Pay attention to those spirals that are all around you and within you. You never know what you might discover.
After all, the universe loves to reveal its secrets to those who are paying attention.